Commander Jiho felt the familiar hum of the Earth defense ship Harmony beneath his boots as he stood watching the darkness of space through the massive viewport. The stars looked peaceful, but that peace was about to shatter. 12 enormous, alien warships approached Earth like predators closing in on prey, their dark hulls reflecting the distant sunlight like polished metal. "Those ships are massive," whispered Lieutenant Dongyun from his navigation console. Each Zephyrian vessel stretched nearly 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapon arrays that had reduced countless worlds to ash. The alien fleet moved in perfect formation, their engines glowing with an eerie blue light that painted the surrounding space. Communications Officer Nari looked up from her station, her face pale but determined. "Sir, we're receiving multiple scanner readings. Those ships are heavily armed with plasma cannons, fusion torpedoes, and some kind of energy weapon we've never seen before." Her hands moved quickly across the holographic controls, streams of data flowing across her screens. "How many worlds did they conquer again?" asked Weapons Officer Sunho, checking his targeting systems with practiced efficiency. 47 confirmed. "Planets," Captain Minho replied grimly, stepping beside Jiho at the viewport. "Billions of lives lost. Each world fell within days of first contact. The Zephyrians don't negotiate, they don't take prisoners, and they don't show mercy." The bridge crew worked in tense silence, monitoring the approaching threat. Engineering Chief Bora called out from her station, "Commander, their ships are scanning us with some kind of deep probe technology. They're trying to analyze our hull, composition and defensive capabilities." Jiho nodded calmly. "Let them look, Chief, they won't find what they expect." Through the viewport, the lead Zephyrian ship grew larger, its massive form blocking out stars. Strange symbols glowed along its hull, marking the victories of countless conquered worlds. Gunports lined the vessel's sides like the eyes of some ancient sea monster, each one capable of destroying entire cities. "Sir, incoming transmission from the lead vessel," Nari reported, her voice steady despite the tension. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, intercepting the alien signal. "They're using standard galactic communication protocols. Audio and visual are coming through clearly." "Put it through the main screen," Jiho commanded, straightening his uniform. The entire bridge crew turned toward the large display at the front of the command center. The screen flickered with static before clearing to reveal the interior of the alien flagship. The bridge was dark and menacing, filled with creatures that looked like walking nightmares. Admiral Vex dominated the screen, his reptilian features scarred from countless battles. His yellow eyes glowed with cruel intelligence, and razor-sharp teeth gleamed when he spoke. Primitive creatures of the third planet. Vex's voice rumbled through the bridge speakers like distant thunder. "I am Admiral Vex of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. Your pathetic world has been selected for resource harvesting. You will surrender your population for labor processing and your planet for mineral extraction. Resistance is futile and will only increase your suffering." Behind the alien commander, the bridge crew could see other Zephyrians working at strange control stations. Their technology looked organic and metallic at the same time, pulsing with biomechanical energy. Holographic displays showed Earth from multiple angles, marked with target zones and resource calculations. Captain Minho stepped forward, his voice calm but carrying absolute authority. "Admiral Vex, I am Captain Minho of Earth Defense Command. You have entered our solar system with hostile intent and threatened our world. Leave now. This is your only warning." The alien's reaction was immediate and terrifying. His laughter filled the bridge like the sound of breaking glass, echoing off the metal walls. Other Zephyrians on his bridge joined in, their voices creating a chorus of mockery that sent chills down human spines. "One small ship against our fleet?" Vex's amusement was obvious, his scarred face twisting into what humans had learned was their equivalent of a sneer. "Your species' desperation amuses us greatly. We have conquered star systems with thousands of defending vessels. What can one tiny craft possibly do against the might of the Zephyrian Empire?" The alien commander gestured toward something off-screen. And suddenly the main display split to show the human ship from the Zephyrian perspective. The Harmony looked incredibly small compared to the massive alien warships, like a minnow surrounded by sharks. "Look at your vessel," Vex continued mockingly. It appears to be constructed from primitive metals and basic energy systems. How a smallest fighter craft could destroy it with a single plasma burst. Perhaps we will keep some of your crew alive to study your amusing overconfidence before processing begins. Jiho remained perfectly calm, exchanging a meaningful glance with Captain Minho. Both men knew something the aliens didn't, something that would soon change everything. Jiho nodded to Nari, who immediately cut the transmission. The aliens' mocking laughter stopped abruptly, leaving the bridge in silence. "Signal all stations, Captain," Jiho said quietly, his voice carrying across the bridge. "They've been warned." Admiral Vex's eyes blazed with fury as the human transmission ended. How dare these primitive creatures reject the might of the Zephyrian Empire? His clawed hand slammed down on the command console, sending sparks flying across the bridge of his flagship. "All ships, assume attack formation Delta 7, Vex roared to his fleet commanders. "Target their major population centers. We will show these humans the price of defying the Empire." The 12 massive Zephyrian warships spread across Earth's orbital space like a deadly web. Their hulls gleamed with malevolent energy as weapon systems came online. Plasma cannons extended from hidden compartments, their barrels glowing with contained destruction. Fusion torpedo tubes loaded with city-killing warheads, while energy projectors hummed with power that could crack continents. Tactical Officer Rax worked frantically at his biomechanical console, targeting systems painting red markers over Earth's surface. "Admiral, we have locks on their primary cities. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, all marked for elimination. Estimated casualty count 400 million in the first wave." "Excellent," Vex hissed, his forked tongue flicking across sharp teeth. "Begin bombardment sequence. Let their screams echo across the galaxy as a warning to other foolish species." The massive alien ships turned their weapons toward the blue planet below. Energy readings spiked as the Zephyrians prepared to unleash destruction that had shattered dozens of worlds. On the flagship's main screen, Earth looked peaceful and defenseless, unaware of the death approaching from space. But as the weapons reached full charge, something impossible began happening. "Admiral!" Rax's voice cracked with panic. "Targeting. Computer is experiencing system failures. I'm losing locks on all primary targets." Red warning lights flashed across the Zephyrian bridge as error messages cascaded down their displays. The organic technology that had never failed in centuries of conquest suddenly seemed to be eating itself from the inside. "What?" Vex spun toward his officer, yellow eyes wide with disbelief. "That's impossible. Our systems are hardened against all known interference." "Sir, it's not just targeting," Engineering Officer Crix called out from across the bridge. "Shield. Generators are fluctuating wildly. Power distribution is becoming unstable. Our weapons are losing charge." Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, similar chaos erupted. On the cruiser. Death's Edge, Captain Zor watched his weapons systems shut down, one by one. On the destroyer, Bone Crusher, the crew struggled as their ship's artificial gravity failed, sending alien warriors floating helplessly through the corridors. Lieutenant Somin aboard the human ship. Harmony watched the alien confusion unfold. On her monitoring station, her screens showed the Zephyrian fleet's energy signatures dropping rapidly, their organized formation breaking apart as ships drifted out of position. "Their entire network is being systematically disrupted, sir," she reported to Commander Jiho, barely able to hide her amazement. "Whatever's affecting them is spreading through their fleet like a virus. Their communication systems are going down, their navigation is failing, and their weapons are powering down across all 12 ships." Captain Minho leaned over her shoulder, studying the readings. "Look at their shield frequencies. They're oscillating randomly, creating gaps in their defensive coverage." The Zephyrian flagship shuddered as another system failed. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in an eerie red glow, while alien crew members scrambled to restore control. Admiral Vex grabbed his command chair as the ship lurched to one side, artificial gravity cutting out for several terrifying seconds. "How is this possible?" Vex snarled at his chief engineer. "Our technology has conquered star empires. We've destroyed civilizations that had evolved for millions of years." "Admiral, I don't understand it either," the engineer replied, his voice trembling. It's like something is rewriting our computer codes in real time, turning our own systems against us. Every time we try to compensate, the interference adapts and finds a new weakness. Desperate and humiliated, Admiral Vex made a decision that would doom his ground forces. Launch all dropships immediately. If we cannot bombard them from orbit, we will crush them on their own soil. Send every warrior, every war machine, every battle robot we have. The massive Zephyrian ships opened their launch bays, releasing hundreds of smaller craft toward Earth's surface. Drop pods containing alien soldiers streaked through the atmosphere like falling meteors. Assault shuttles carried heavy weapons and mechanical war beasts. Transport ships loaded with advanced combat robots descended toward major cities. Engineer Tae-hyun sat in his hidden command post deep beneath Seoul, South Korea. His fingers moved across controls that looked deceptively simple, monitoring the alien descent through sensors hidden across the globe. Banks of quantum computers hummed around him, processing data at speeds that made alien technology look primitive. "Orbital platforms are online, Captain," he reported through secure communication links. "The real show is about to begin." High, above Earth's atmosphere, previously invisible structures began revealing themselves. Massive defensive platforms uncloaked from stealth fields, their surfaces bristling with weapons that defied known physics. These weren't crude missiles or energy beams. They were reality-bending devices that could manipulate space and time itself. As the Zephyrian dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere, they discovered something that filled even their warrior hearts with terror. The planet's defensive grid was unlike anything they had encountered in their centuries of conquest. Instead of scattered military bases and desperate resistance, they found a world that had been preparing for this moment. For longer than their empire had existed, the sky itself seemed to come alive with defensive fire that moved in impossible patterns, bending around obstacles and striking with surgical precision. The first Zephyrian drop pods crashed into the streets of New Tokyo with thunderous impacts that shattered concrete and sent shockwaves through empty buildings. Alien warriors emerged. From the smoking craters, their reptilian forms covered in advanced battle armor that gleamed with energy shields. They carried plasma rifles that could melt through steel and wore helmets that provided tactical information about their surroundings. Squad leader Thex stepped out of his pod, scanning the eerily quiet street with predatory yellow eyes. The city looked completely abandoned, with cars sitting empty in the middle of roads and shop doors hanging open as if people had fled in panic. Windows stared down at them like hollow eyes, and the only sound was the distant hum of alien engines as more ships landed throughout the city. "Too easy," growled Warrior Cracks, hefting his massive energy cannon. "These humans scattered like insects when they saw our ships. There's no honor in hunting cowards who won't even fight." But something felt wrong. In all their conquests across 47 worlds, the Zephyrians had never encountered cities this perfectly empty. Usually there were signs of panic, overturned vehicles, scattered belongings, bodies of those who couldn't escape in time. Here everything looked deliberately arranged, as if the entire population had simply vanished into thin air. Deep beneath the streets, Colonel Hyunwoo sat in a command center that the aliens would never suspect existed. The underground facility stretched for kilometers beneath New Tokyo, connected to similar bases under every major city on Earth. Hundreds of holographic displays showed the alien positions in real time, tracked by sensors hidden in every building, every street lamp, every piece of urban infrastructure. "All units, this is command." His voice crackled through secure quantum channels that the Zephyrians couldn't detect or intercept. "Enemy forces have entered the killing zone. Execute Protocol 7. Show them what humanity really looks like. When we stop pretending to be weak." The response was immediate and devastating. What the aliens had mistaken for empty buildings suddenly came alive with deadly purpose. Windows that appeared dark and vacant slid open to reveal advanced weapon systems. Rooftops that looked abandoned raised hidden gun turrets that tracked alien movements with mechanical precision. Street surfaces that seemed like ordinary concrete split apart to expose underground firing positions. Squad leader Thex barely had time to roar a warning before the first energy beam cut through his ranks. The plasma bolt came from a building he had dismissed as empty, striking one of his warriors with surgical accuracy. The alien soldier's shields flared and died, his armor melting under the intense heat. "Ambush!" Thex screamed into his communicator. "The buildings are armed. Repeat, the humans have weaponized their entire city." But the real shock was yet to come. As the Zephyrians scrambled for cover, human figures began emerging from hidden entrances they had never noticed. These weren't panicked civilians or desperate soldiers. They were ordinary-looking people who moved with the coordination of a military unit that had trained together for years. Private Yunho rose from a concealed position beneath what looked like a normal sidewalk grate. He wore civilian clothes but carried weapons that made Zephyrian technology look primitive. Beside him, Sergeant Minji emerged from a camouflaged tunnel entrance, leading a squad of fighters who looked like shopkeepers. "Teachers and office workers, remember your training," Minji said calmly to her team as alien plasma fire scorched the air around them. "Every street corner is a tactical position. Every building is a fortress. Every citizen is a guardian of Earth." The Zephyrians watched, in growing horror, as the human civilians revealed their true nature. An elderly man who looked like a grandfather pulled advanced energy weapons from a hidden compartment in his fruit stand. A young woman who appeared to be a college student activated combat armor that materialized around her from microscopic components in her clothing. Children who should have been running in terror instead coordinated with adult fighters, providing intelligence and support with the efficiency of trained operators. "This is impossible," Warrior Crack snarled, taking cover behind an overturned vehicle as human fighters attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. "How can an entire population be soldiers? They're shopkeepers and office workers." But that was exactly the point. Humanity had learned from watching the Zephyrian Empire conquer other worlds. They had seen how traditional military forces were overwhelmed by superior alien technology, so they had chosen a different path, turning every human being into a potential defender, every neighborhood into a coordinated defensive network. Private Yunho and his squad moved through underground tunnels that connected beneath the entire city. These weren't crude subway systems or maintenance passages. They were sophisticated military networks that allowed human forces to appear anywhere instantly. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that could strike from any direction, disappear into hidden passages, and coordinate attacks across vast distances. Above the chaos on Earth's surface, something even more shocking was happening in space. The Zephyrian fleet, still struggling with their disabled systems, detected new contacts approaching their position. At first they thought it might be reinforcements from other human colonies, but the sensor readings made no sense. Ships were materializing out of empty space itself, appearing like ghosts becoming solid. These weren't the crude metal vessels the aliens expected from a primitive species. They were sleek craft that seemed to be made of crystallized light, their hulls shifting and flowing like liquid mercury. Their energy signatures were unlike anything in Zephyrian databases, suggesting technology that operated on principles the Empire had never encountered. Captain Jihoon stood on the bridge of the newly revealed ship, Guardian's Edge, watching the alien fleet through sensors that could peer through dimensions. His vessel had been hiding in parallel space, waiting for the moment when humanity would drop their disguise and show the galaxy their true capabilities. Admiral Vex's pride lay in ruins around him as his flagship shuddered from another system. Failure. The bridge sparked with electrical fires while his crew struggled to maintain basic life support. Through the chaos, he activated his emergency communication array, sending a desperate message across the galaxy to the Zephyrian Empire's core worlds. "This is Admiral Vex requesting immediate reinforcements." His voice cracked with desperation. "The humans possess technology beyond our understanding. Send everything, every ship, every weapon, every warrior the Empire can spare. If we fail, here the Empire itself may fall." The response came within hours. From across the galaxy, the mightiest armada ever assembled began converging on Earth's solar system. Over 300 Zephyrian warships answered the call, massive dreadnoughts that could crack moons, carrier vessels packed with fighter squadrons, battle cruisers armed with planet-killing weapons. This was the accumulated might of an empire that had ruled space for centuries. Fleet Admiral Kiwon stood in Earth's primary command station. a facility hidden deep beneath the Himalayan mountains. The vast chamber buzzed with activity as thousands of human operators coordinated the planet's defense. Holographic displays showed the approaching alien armada in terrifying detail, a cloud of destruction so massive it blocked out entire star fields. "Sir, final count confirms 312 enemy vessels," reported Intelligence Officer Da Hyun, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the threat. "They're bringing everything, including their flagship Eternal Dominion, a vessel that single-handedly destroyed the Andromedan defense fleet." Kiwon nodded calmly, his experienced eyes studying the tactical displays. Around him, Earth's true military commanders prepared for a battle that would determine the fate of not just humanity, but every free species in the galaxy. "All wings, prepare for engagement," he commanded, his voice carrying across quantum communication networks that reached every human defender in the solar system. "Show them why we gave them a warning." The space around Earth transformed into something the galaxy had never witnessed before. What appeared to be empty vacuum suddenly filled with human vessels that materialized from parallel dimensions. Ships that looked like they were crafted from crystallized starlight emerged from folds in space-time itself, their hulls shifting. Between states of matter, the Zephyrian Armada advanced in their traditional formation, expecting to overwhelm the defending human fleet through sheer numbers and firepower. Admiral Korax, commanding the reinforcement fleet, studied his tactical screens with confidence. "Primitive planet-bound species always fight the same way," he told his bridge crew. "They'll cluster around their homeworld, trying to create a defensive shell. We'll punch through their lines and begin orbital bombardment." But as the aliens closed distance, they realized their assumptions were completely wrong. The human ships weren't clustering defensively around Earth. They were spreading throughout the solar system in patterns that defied military logic. Some vessels appeared to be in multiple locations simultaneously, while others phased in and out of reality like ghosts. Pilot Seo-hyun sat in the cockpit of her fighter craft, Void Dancer, a vessel that existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions the Zephyrians couldn't even detect. Her ship looked like a work of art rather than a weapon of war, its hull composed of materials that seemed to flow like liquid metal. "Beginning attack run on the enemy flagship," she reported, through quantum comm links. Her fighter suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds, moving through angles of space that hurt alien minds to contemplate. The Zephyrian dreadnought Star Crusher opened fire with dozens of plasma cannons, creating a web of destructive energy. That should have vaporized any approaching craft, but Seo-hyun's fighter simply wasn't there when the weapons fired. It had slipped sideways through dimensional space, emerging behind the massive alien ship where its shields were weakest. "Their shields can't adapt to transdimensional attacks," she reported, as her fighter's exotic weapons tore through the dreadnought's armor like paper. "They're designed to stop energy and matter from normal space, but we're hitting them from angles that don't technically exist." Throughout the solar system, similar scenes played out as human forces revealed capabilities that rewrote the laws of physics. Captain Jiwan commanded a cruiser that could exist in 7 dimensions simultaneously, allowing it to fire through solid objects and strike targets from impossible directions. Commander Yong-ho piloted a vessel that manipulated time itself, slowing down enemy projectiles while accelerating his own attacks. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered dozens of worlds by following predictable patterns, overwhelming firepower, superior numbers, and technology that outmatched their enemies. But humanity fought according to rules that the aliens had never encountered. Human ships moved through space in ways that violated everything the Zephyrians understood about warfare. "Impossible!" screamed Admiral Korax as his flagship took hits, from weapons that seemed to fire backwards through time. "How are they striking us before they pull their triggers?" The answer was humanity's greatest secret. They had never been the primitive species they pretended to be. While appearing to struggle with basic space travel, human scientists had been exploring the deepest mysteries of reality itself. They had learned to manipulate dimensions, fold space-time, and harness energies that existed beyond normal physics. Fighter. Pilot Minseo engaged 3 Zephyrian interceptors simultaneously, her craft dancing between dimensional layers like a leaf on the wind. The alien pilots fired continuously, their weapons passing harmlessly through empty space, while she struck them from angles they couldn't defend against. "This is like fighting shadows," one alien pilot transmitted before his ship exploded. "They're everywhere and nowhere at once." Within 6 hours of engagement, the largest military force in galactic history was being systematically destroyed by what had appeared to be a single primitive world. Zephyrian ships fled in every direction, their crews spreading tales of impossible defeat across the galaxy. The Zephyrian High Command gathered in their ancient throne chamber on the capital world of Zerion Prime, their scaled faces twisted with disbelief and rage. The massive hall had witnessed the planning of countless conquests over 8 centuries of galactic dominion, its walls decorated with trophies from destroyed civilizations. Now, for the first time in their empire's history, they faced reports of total defeat. Supreme Overlord Krex, the most feared being in known space, slammed his massive fist onto the crystalline war table. His scarred hide told the story of 1,000 battles, and his yellow eyes had watched entire star systems burn. But today, those same eyes burned with confusion and fury. "Impossible!" His voice boomed through the chamber, causing lesser officials to cower. 300 ships destroyed by primitive ape creatures? Our finest admirals fleeing in terror from a single backward planet? These reports are the ravings of cowards and failures. Defense Minister Vox stepped forward nervously, his claws clicking against the polished floor. "Supreme Overlord, the surviving ships all tell the same story. The humans possess technology that operates outside known physics. Their vessels move through dimensions we cannot detect, strike from angles that shouldn't exist, and silence." Krex roared, his massive form rising from the throne. "I've heard enough fairy tales. These humans use some kind of trickery, perhaps holograms or sensor ghosts. No species develops from primitive to advanced overnight. It violates every law of technological evolution." The other council members exchanged worried glances. War Marshal Drax, who had personally overseen the conquest of 18 worlds, cleared his throat nervously. "My lord, perhaps we should consider the possibility that we underestimated them. Even our most advanced scouts reported only basic, nuclear technology and primitive spaceflight." "Exactly my point," Krex snarled. "Either our intelligence was completely wrong, or these creatures found some ancient alien technology and don't know how to use it properly. Send reconnaissance drones to their system. We will learn the truth of this supposed human superiority and plan our next attack accordingly." Within hours, the Empire's most advanced spy drones launched toward Earth's solar system. These weren't ordinary scout ships. They were invisible to most sensors, heavily shielded and packed with recording equipment that could analyze enemy technology from vast distances. Each drone represented decades of development and cost more than most planets' entire military budgets. The drones never returned. More precisely, they vanished the moment they entered the outer edges of Earth's solar system, their signals cutting off as if they had simply ceased to exist. Follow-up drones met the same fate. Long-range telescopes showed empty space, where the reconnaissance vessels should have been. No debris, no energy signatures, nothing at all. Days passed, with no word from the spy missions. The Zephyrian High Command grew increasingly nervous. As reports arrived from across the galaxy, conquered worlds were becoming restless, sensing weakness in their overlords. Border systems reported strange ships appearing briefly before vanishing. Even their most loyal slave races were asking questions about the rumors spreading through space. Supreme Overlord Krex paced his throne room like a caged predator, his massive claws leaving gouges in the ancient stone floor. "Where are my drones? Where are my answers? How can an entire fleet of spy ships simply disappear?" His question was answered in the most shocking way possible. Without warning, 3 figures materialized in the center of the throne room, appearing as if they had stepped through an invisible door. The Zephyrian guards reached for their weapons, but found themselves unable to move, frozen in place by technology that operated beyond their understanding. Ambassador Doyun stood calmly between his companions, his human form seeming impossibly small in the vast alien chamber. Yet his presence filled the room with quiet authority that made even Supreme Overlord Krex step backward. Captain Yunji and Commander Wonbin flanked him, their eyes scanning the frozen alien council with professional assessment. "Greetings, leaders of the Zephyrian Empire," Do-hyun spoke with the tone of someone addressing children who had misbehaved. "I am Ambassador Do-hyun of Earth. We regret that formal introductions were impossible earlier, as your fleets were too busy dying to establish proper diplomatic channels." The alien council erupted in panic. Several officials tried to flee, but found their legs wouldn't obey their commands. Others attempted to activate emergency signals, only to discover their communication systems had been completely disabled. Supreme Overlord Krex himself felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: genuine fear. How did you penetrate our security?" Krex stammered, his voice losing its usual commanding boom. "This chamber is protected by shields that could deflect Starcruiser weapons." Captain Yunji smiled coldly. "Your shields protect against attacks from normal space. We didn't come through your doors, your walls, or your atmosphere. We simply chose to be here instead of there. Your technology cannot defend against enemies who rewrite the basic rules of existence." Commander Wonbin stepped forward, his scanner device analyzing the alien technology around them. "Impressive craftsmanship for a primitive species," he commented casually. "Your empire's technology peaked about 3,000 years ago and has been stagnating ever since. That's what happens when you conquer instead of innovate." Ambassador Do-hyun raised his hand, and holographic displays filled the throne room, showing real-time images from across the Zephyrian Empire. Every world, every fleet, every military installation was visible in perfect detail, proving that humanity's reach extended far beyond their small solar system. "Leaders of the Zephyrian Empire," Do-hyun continued with deadly calm, "your reign of terror ends today. You have exactly one choice to make. Surrender peacefully and begin the process of freeing the worlds you've enslaved, or face the consequences of your actions. We gave your fleets a warning. We're giving you the same courtesy." The alien council stared in horror at the holographic displays, watching human ships materialize near their most heavily defended worlds simultaneously. The message was clear: nowhere in their empire was beyond humanity's reach. Within 72 hours, the Zephyrian Empire collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. World after world surrendered rather than face the mysterious human forces, choosing freedom over destruction. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for 8 centuries found themselves begging for mercy from the same primitive apes they had planned to enslave. 6 months later, Admiral Sunwoo stood in Earth's rebuilt command center, now serving as the headquarters for the newly formed Galactic Protection Alliance. Through the massive windows, he watched ships from dozens of former Zephyrian slave worlds approaching for the first intergalactic peace summit. Species that had lived in fear for centuries were finally free to determine their own destinies. Captain Ji-won joined him at the observation deck, both men watching as former enemies became partners in building a better galaxy. "Hard to believe it's over," she said quietly. 800 years of tyranny ended because they couldn't accept a simple warning. Admiral Sunwoo nodded thoughtfully, his expression reflecting both satisfaction and sadness for what might have been avoided. "They had their warning," he said, quietly, watching a ship full of liberated alien children dock at the space station. "We gave them exactly one chance to choose differently. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way." The end.